So I guess my job is to ask everybody how you're feeling. That was a joke, by the way. Well, actually not a joke. So this is a tool that we developed to help make social and emotional learning real. On the x-axis right here, you see the word pleasantness. I'm going to ask all of you right now to take a moment. You've been here at a conference all day. What is your level of pleasantness? -5. In your head, you're saying something like, I can't wait to get out of here. +5. You're thinking, oh my goodness, I could stay here for another 6 hours. So please, where is your level of pleasantness right now? -5 to +5. On the y-axis, it says the word energy. Literally your level of physical energy activity. +5, you can't contain yourself. -5, you're in your deepest pool of despair. Where's your energy at? And of course, we just cross our two axes to create our mood meter. We got yellow, red, blue, and green. So raise your hand if you're in the yellow. High energy and pleasant. All right, we're in England, obviously. Not very many people. How many were in the green? You're pleasant, but you're kind of low in energy. Okay, I got a lot of green. Any blue or red? Okay, so we're in a room of a couple, maybe 300, 400 people, and about 10 people raise their hands to say they're feeling unpleasant. Is that real? I mean, think about it. Does that really kind of have meaning? And what my research shows is that actually we're in a very different emotional place. So let's take a look at some data. When we looked at students' emotional lives, we call it the emotional roller coaster. We studied high school students across the United States. In a study in collaboration with the pop singer Lady Gaga and her foundation, we surveyed 45,000 students across America. Public school, private school, rich schools, poor schools. And here's what the data showed. The top emotions that our nation's high school students are experiencing are tired, bored, and stressed. As a matter of fact, 77% of the feelings they report having each day are what you might call negative emotions. Now, I also ask you, do you think that's real? No, it's not real. It is real. So when people challenged us on this research, what we did was a more advanced study. It's called experience sampling. What we did was we took a couple thousand students and we gave them little smart devices and we tracked them 5 times a day for 5 weeks. 125 moments of how they felt each day in school. What do you think we found? Tired, bored, and stressed, around 70% of the time. How many of you feel like tired, bored, and stressed is a recipe for innovation, creativity? So we said, all right, enough with the students. Let's go to the teachers. Let's see how they're doing. Amazingly well. The number one emotion that our nation's teachers is feeling is frustration. Any educators in the room? Does that resonate with anybody? Top emotion experienced by an American teacher, frustration. We went a little deeper with this and we said, well, what's the cause of your frustration? What we found was, very interestingly, the single biggest cause of a teacher's unpleasant emotions was the climate of their school, the quality of the relationships between and among the teachers and the students. And lo and behold, what we also found was that the outcome of their negative emotions were things like depression, anxiety. We actually found in our study that teachers who come from a more negative school, who experience more negative emotions, are overweight. They have higher BMIs, because we actually study teachers' body mass indexes. And they take more sick days. So what we've learned over our 20 years of doing research is emotions matter for 5 big reasons. The first is attention, memory, and learning. So I asked you how you felt for a reason, because I know that if you're bored, which if you are, I'm like insulted, just so you know. Your brain is not here. Emotions drive our attentional capacity. It's been proven. As a kid, I was a C&D student. I hated school. I was bullied horrifically. I really just had a terrible time, and literally was a failing student. And I know some of you are looking at me like, how is that possible? Because the truth is, I am really freaking smart. However, my emotion system had complete control over my cognitive system. Because I was worrying about, am I going to get home safely? Am I going to get from class A to class B without getting beaten up? And when your brain is preoccupied with survival, it's not available for learning. That's been proven through now very advanced brain research. The second is decision making. Has anyone here ever made a poor choice? So we know that how we feel influences our decisions. Quick study. We took teachers. We randomly assigned them to be in two conditions. Good mood, bad mood. Think about a good day, bad day, good day, bad day, good day, bad day. And then we had them read the same essay and grade it. Lo and behold, what we found was 1 to 2 full grades difference in the way the teachers evaluated the essay. So there you go. Mood, emotion, influencing cognition, and now resulting in student performance. The most interesting thing about that research was at the end of the study we asked the teachers, do you believe that how you felt had any influence over the way you graded the paper? What do you think? 90% said no. I grade papers all the time. Why would my feelings influence how I evaluate? Well, lo and behold, what that tells us is that how we feel influences our decisions, and that happens mostly outside of conscious awareness, which brings up really interesting professional development. The third is relationship quality. Raise your hand if you work with someone who is difficult. Can you hear me? Can you hear me all right? All right, so now you do that works and how I do. All right, wow. Can you hear me all right? All right. So let me take, there we go. It's a good thing I got training in emotional intelligence. So, I asked you a minute ago. Thank you. So I ask you right now, something I completely forgot I was going to ask you. Relationship quality. Let me ask you that quick question. Raise your hand again if you work with someone who's difficult. All right, we're back to track. So think about that. Emotions are signals. They are signals to approach or avoid. Just take a moment and think about that. If you were someone, like an educator, who walks around, unfortunately, with a facial expression like this, how many of you, when you see that facial expression, say something like, I want to work with that person for the rest of my life? No. Negative emotional expressions say, stay away. The fourth is physical and mental health. Here's what we know. At least in the state that I live in America called Connecticut, we studied 12 universities. Every year, think about this, every year for the last 6 years, there's been a 20% increase in students seeking mental health treatment. Every year for the last 6 years, a 20% increase. In America alone, The suicide rates, unfortunately, have gone up by 25% in the last 2 decades. Finally, performance. Raise your hand if you've ever tried to be creative. Raise your hand if you've ever failed. Raise your hand if you've ever gotten really harsh feedback. All right. Raise your hand if you've ever been disappointed with an outcome. So what we know from our research is that the high school students who have the emotion regulation strategy to support them in dealing with the full range of emotions are the ones who actually achieve their goals. So that leaves us to an interesting question. As you can see here, it appears that we're quite emotionally out of whack. If you go back to our mood meter, you see that about 70% of the emotions our nation is feeling are on that left side. The question is, how do we get more of those pleasant emotions? Recognizing that the goal is not always to be happy. Take me, for example. I'm a neurotic Jewish professor. I will never be happy. I'm striving for contentment. But if the goal that I had, like I've heard in, unfortunately, some classrooms, come on, we gotta be happy, you may be doomed to actually be more depressed if you're pushed to be happy. So that means we need some skills. And there are 5 skills that we have studied in our center for the last 25 years. We call them the ruler skills. The first is recognition of emotion. Being aware, perceptive emotion, face, body, voice. The second is understanding where those feelings come from. Do I know why I feel angry or disappointed or frustrated or overwhelmed or anxious? What's the difference between feeling pressure versus stress? What's the difference between feeling jealous versus envious? The third is having that language. Am I down, disappointed, devastated, or hopeless, or despaired? Am I happy, elated, jubilant, or just content, or tranquil, or peaceful? The fourth is expressing emotions, knowing how and when to express emotions. There are rules around that, aren't there? There are cultural rules. I'm in England. I've gotten the opportunity to work in schools here. And this, I hope this please do not take this in a negative way. About 5 years ago, I was visiting a school somewhere around here. And it was at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm doing my presentation, and this teacher stands up. As soon as I show her the movie, she looks at me and she goes, "My job is not to talk to my students about my feelings." So I have some facilitation skills. So I said, does anybody have a different feeling? And this one high school teacher stood up, this guy, he looked like a cricket player, and he was actually. And he goes, "Sir, I've got a different opinion." And I was like, "Great. Share it." He goes, "Well, before I share my opinion, I just want to let you know that I actually was a student in this school, and she was my teacher." It was an interesting morning. And I bring it up because the last skill, which is the toughest of them all, is emotion regulation. Raise your hand if you've ever had difficulty regulating an emotion. Raise your hand if you think you might be a little healthier or happier if you were more skilled in that area. Raise your hand if you think you might be a little healthier and happier if everybody who you lived and worked with were more skilled in that area. Yeah. We all want everyone else to do the hard work. So here's what we know. That among youth, those with more developed emotion skills look like the bottom. They have greater empathy, greater well-being, all the outcomes that we care about. What we know from 20 years of research is that those with lower emotional intelligence look like the columns on the top. When we go into our teachers, we know the same thing. Teachers with more developed emotional skills, they're more sensitive, they bring more positive classroom climates, they're less stressed, they're less burned out. In my opinion, we have an equity issue, not only in terms of race and poverty, but we have an equity issue in education with educators. Educators who are stressed and burned out are not giving the best possible education possible to their students. So, very briefly, I've had the privilege over the last many years of my life to develop an approach. We call it ruler. In England, they call it rula. And our goal is to move from piecemeal models. I started my career only wanting to work with kids. And I developed a middle school program. And we failed. We failed because the adults who were teaching kids they had that attitude. Like, my job is not to talk to my students about my feelings. I'm not going to talk about negative emotions. I'll do joy and jolly. I'm like 77% of the feelings are negative. We're not going to talk about them? No. We're just going to let them go. So, but that's going to drive their learning. And then I work with school leaders and they said, well, thank you for coming. And they leave the room. And I'm like, wait a minute. What about you? You got to learn this stuff. And then we had opportunities to work in big systems, and we found that we needed to think systemically. So in my last minute with all of you, I'm just going to share with you a few things we've done. One, we say there's too many rules, not enough feelings. Instead of having rules, why don't we just ask people how they want to feel and create learning environments where we strive for the feelings that students and leaders and teachers want to feel. So you can now develop that vocabulary and think about how specifically you feel. Because we know if you name it, you can tame it. We also developed many interesting ways. One of the things that we built was a tool we call the Mood Meter app, which helps you plot your feelings. So technology can help you create more meaning by looking at the frequencies of your emotions over time of day of week. And what we found in schools that adopt this approach is that pretty good things happen. We have students who do better, we have teachers who are healthier and happier, we have less bullying, we have more positive climates. We even show that there is a cost-benefit analysis in doing this work. And lastly, what I want to urge us all to do is think systemically. Raise your hand if you believe that emotions matter. Raise your hand if you think that these skills are real skills, not really just soft skills. I'll tell you right now, it's never too early or too late to develop these skills. The areas of your brain responsible for learning these skills are with you now and to your last days. I'll tell you there are systemic and really creative ways of doing that. Ours is one approach. I'm sure many of you are doing other approaches. And lastly, what I want to say is that maybe, just maybe, if we start taking this side of the important part seriously, we will have a generation of youth who not only is academically successful, but achieves their dreams. So on that last note, I want to bring back my friend Barbara, who is going to end our time together. Thank you so much.